When Keanu Reeves brought a new maid into his villa, he had no clue about the struggles she faced, living homeless and barely surviving. What Keanu did after uncovering her dire situation didn't just astonish her, but also countless others worldwide, challenging preconceived notions about celebrities like him. What challenges had this woman endured, and how did Keanu respond? The frigid December air gnawed at the thin metal shell of an aging sedan, its frosted windows covered with delicate ice patterns. Inside, Anna stirred beneath a threadbare blanket, her restless sleep offering little respite. At 25, she never imagined her life would come to this, calling an abandoned alley and a cold car her home. As wakefulness seeped in, Anna's eyelids fluttered open, adjusting to the muted light filtering through the frost-laden windows. The first thing she noticed was her breath, faintly visible in the chilly car interior. Clinging to the blanket's meager warmth for a fleeting moment, she reluctantly braced herself for another harsh day. The alley where her car was parked had been carefully chosen, tucked away behind the Golden Fork, a high-end bistro that unknowingly became her source of sustenance. Anna had endured this way of living for 6 months, each day a battle to survive and every night a fight against the cold and despair. Slowly, she sat up, her muscles stiffened by the cramped quarters and relentless cold. Her gaze fell on her most valued possession, a chipped melamine plate salvaged from a dumpster. Despite its imperfections, it symbolized a fragment of dignity in her otherwise dire existence. As Anna steeled herself for the bitter chill waiting outside, she surveyed her makeshift home. Though far from a real dwelling, she had arranged her belongings with care. Folded clothes occupied the passenger seat, and essentials were neatly stowed in the back. Everything had a place in her compact, mobile world. She took a deep breath, pulling the blanket tighter around her shoulders as a makeshift cloak. Grasping her plate, she pushed open the car door, gasping as an icy gust hit her face. Snowflakes drifted lazily from the gray sky, adding to the layer of snow beneath her feet. Crunching through the snow, she headed toward the alley's corner, shoulders hunched against the cold. Near the bistro's back entrance, Anna exchanged a familiar glance with a kitchen hand. Over 6 months, they had developed a silent understanding. His subtle nod directed her to a garbage bag deliberately left on the ground, not in the bin, a small act of kindness that warmed Anna's heart more than any fire could. She offered a grateful smile, her lips stiff from the chill, as he disappeared back into the warmth of the restaurant. Alone, Anna crouched on the damp concrete and carefully opened the garbage bag. Experience taught her that breakfast prep scraps often yielded the best finds, and today was no exception. She unearthed unbroken pastries and freshly peeled vegetables, items deemed unfit for the bistro's high standards but still perfectly edible. With practiced precision, she arranged the food on her plate, adding a touch of dignity to her meal despite her circumstances. Eating with her hands, she savored every bite while reflecting on the events that brought her here. Losing her job, her mother's battle with cancer, eviction, all had led her to this point. Even amid hardship, Anna clung to hope, dreaming of a day she could leave this alley behind and reclaim a semblance of normalcy. For now, this was her reality. As the snow continued to fall and the city stirred to life, Anna finished her modest meal, grateful for another day of survival. She meticulously wiped her plate clean with her clothes, striving to preserve a sense of cleanliness. Turning her attention back to the garbage bag, she searched methodically until her numb fingers found her phone, another piece of her arrangement with a kitchen hand, who charged it nightly and discreetly returned it in the morning. Switching on her phone, Anna carefully wiped the screen clean with her blanket's edge. A notification from the Maid agency she had registered with months ago caught her eye. The message offered weekend work at an upscale address, requiring her to wear a uniform, a detail that sparked a flicker of hope. Back at her car, Anna opened the trunk to retrieve her Maid uniform, preserved in plastic and neatly pressed. The sight of it brought tears to her eyes. Despite living in her car, she had managed to maintain this piece of professional pride, thanks to the kitchen hand's help with laundering it. Changing into the uniform in her car's cramped space, Anna felt the fabric's clean texture against her skin, a stark contrast to her worn, dirty clothes. Turning the ignition key, her heart sank as the fuel gauge hovered near empty. She weighed her options, spend her scant funds on gas or save them for essentials. Ultimately, she decided to walk to the address. Each step brought her closer to her goal and further from the alley. She clung to a quiet hope that this job might lead to more opportunities, a chance to reclaim the life she once had. As she approached the grand villa, Anna straightened her uniform, determined to face the challenges ahead. Uniforms bustling with purpose made Anna suddenly self-conscious about her own appearance. For a moment, she stood there uncertain of where to go or who to report to. "You there?" A sharp voice pierced the air. Anna turned to see a man striding toward her, his posture rigid and his eyes assessing. "You must be the new temp," he said. "I'm Gordon Carfield, the supervisor here." Gordon's gaze swept over Anna's appearance, taking in her slightly disheveled hair and worn shoes. His nose wrinkled subtly, and Anna felt a surge of shame. She knew, despite her efforts to stay clean, that she likely didn't smell fresh. "Right," Gordon said curtly. "We can't have you working like this." Turning to a maid nearby, he ordered, "Fetch me a bottle of body wash and shampoo." The items were tossed to him, and he thrust them into Anna's hands. "Shower now. Wash your hair, dry it, and secure it in a proper bun under your maid cap. You have 15 minutes. Anna stood, stunned by the abrupt command. The other maids avoided her gaze, clearly uneasy about her public dressing down. Yet, amid her embarrassment, Anna felt a spark of gratitude. Having a proper shower was a luxury she hadn't experienced in months. "Well, what are you waiting for?" Gordon snapped. 14 minutes now." Hurrying to the staff bathroom with burning cheeks, Anna let the warm water cascade over her. It felt heavenly, and she fought back tears as she scrubbed away weeks of grime. She washed her hair twice, savoring the sensation of finally being clean. Exactly 15 minutes later, Anna emerged, her hair neatly tucked under her cap. Feeling more human than she had in a long time, she joined the line of maids as Gordon outlined the day's tasks. "Listen up," he barked. "We have 2 events today. A group of guests will arrive for a luncheon in a few hours, and this evening, there's an important networking event. I expect nothing less than perfection." His gaze shifted to Anna. "As for you, newcomer, you'll sweep the backyard and clean the pool of debris. Simple work, but critical. Don't disappoint me." Anna nodded, determined to prove herself, even though she doubted the guests would use the pool in such cold weather. The team dispersed, and Anna gathered her tools, a garden broom and a pool skimmer, from the supply closet. As she made her way to the backyard, the weight of responsibility settled on her. The pool area was immaculate, a stark contrast to the grimy alleys she was used to. With resolve, Anna began sweeping the patio, her movements careful and deliberate. She marveled at the manicured lawn, the sparkling pool, and the elegant furniture surrounding her. It all seemed surreal. She couldn't help but wonder about the people who lived here. Did they realize how fortunate they were? As the sun climbed higher, warming her back despite the chill, Anna immersed herself in her task. The repetitive motions brought a sense of peace, allowing her to forget her worries for a while. By the time she moved to the pool, Anna felt more confident. She might be homeless and struggling, but in this moment, she was simply a worker doing her job, a source of pride she hadn't felt in months. As she skimmed the icy water, a glint of metal caught her eye near the bottom of the pool. Too precise to be debris, it seemed to be jewelry. Anna leaned closer, squinting against the sun's glare. Her heart quickened at the implications. Retrieving the item could demonstrate her attentiveness and honesty, qualities that might lead to a permanent position. She first tried the skimmer net, but the current only pushed the object further. Swimming was out of the question. Her uniform would be ruined, and the icy water was unbearable. After a moment of thought, Anna retrieved a telescopic hook pole and a pool brush from the supply closet. With careful movements, she guided the item closer to the edge using the brush, then switched to the hook. Her breath caught as the hook snagged the item. Slowly, she lifted it from the water. It was a bracelet, exquisite and clearly valuable. Turning it over, she noticed an engraving. Keanu Reeves. Anna's eyes widened. Was this his villa? Had she found something belonging to the famous actor? Overwhelmed, Anna knew she had to return it. Polishing the bracelet with her uniform's napkin, she made her way toward the villa. Each step was heavy with anticipation. This could be her chance to prove her integrity. Inside, the villa's opulence left her momentarily awestruck. She wandered the halls, unsure where to leave the bracelet, until she decided to find the master bedroom. Opening the door, she froze. Keanu Reeves stood there, buttoning his shirt. His eyes widened at the unexpected intrusion. "I'm so sorry," Anna stammered, retreating hastily. "I didn't mean to. I should have knocked." Keanu's response was unexpectedly calm.
"It's all right," he said. "Take a breath."
"Why are you here?" Anna extended the bracelet with trembling hands. "I found this in the pool," she whispered. Keanu's eyes lit up as he took the bracelet. "I've been looking for this," he said, his gratitude evident. "It's a gift from my mother, very precious to me." Anna relaxed slightly. "I'm glad I could return it," she said, smiling faintly. Their brief exchange left her flustered, but Keanu's kindness eased her nerves. As Anna returned to her duties, she resolved to channel her gratitude into doing the best work she could. Anna could see the tension etched into Gordon's features, his brow furrowed as he barked orders at the kitchen staff. "Excuse me, Mr. Carfield," Anna said hesitantly, her voice timid. "I've finished sweeping the backyard and cleaning the pool area." Gordon turned to face her, his expression stern as he glanced at his watch. "It's 11 a.m., he said sharply. "You can take an early lunch break. But remember, you're temporary staff. You need to bring your own lunch, unlike the permanent employees." Her stomach sank. In her rush to make it to work, she hadn't even thought to pack food. I didn't bring anything," Anna admitted quietly, her words barely audible. His eyes narrowed in irritation. "Did you not read my message properly? It clearly stated you needed to bring your own meals," he said with a frustrated sigh.
"Fine.
"You have 40 minutes, go buy something if you have to. But be back on time. I need you to cover for others during their lunch breaks later." As Gordon walked away, dismissing her, Anna's anxiety grew. She had no money, and 40 minutes wasn't nearly enough time to reach an affordable place to eat. Frozen with uncertainty, she stood there before slipping outside. Anna weighed her options. She could either skip lunch entirely, or... Her eyes drifted toward the direction of the Golden Fork restaurant. It was a desperate thought, but no other solutions came to mind. With a sinking feeling, she began making her way back to the alley she had been in earlier that morning. The irony wasn't lost on her. Working at a luxurious villa, yet here she was about to scavenge through trash for a meal. Approaching the restaurant's bins, a mix of shame and resolve gripped her. She carefully opened one of the garbage bags, but disaster struck. The overfilled bag burst, spilling putrid liquid all over her clean uniform. Jumping back in shock, Anna let out a cry of dismay. Her professional appearance was ruined, and the stench was unbearable. Panic set in as she realized her break time was slipping away. How could she return to the villa in such a state? Tears stung her eyes as she frantically tried to clean herself with napkins she found nearby. The effort was futile. The stains and the smell clung stubbornly to her clothes. With time running out, Anna knew she had no choice but to return. She hurried back to the villa, her mind racing with possible excuses, none of them convincing. As she neared the entrance, her heart sank further at the sight of elegantly dressed guests arriving for the day's first event. Caught between hiding and returning to work, Anna froze. A guest noticed her, her eyes widening in shock at Anna's disheveled state. "Oh my God, what is that smell?" the woman exclaimed, her voice loud enough to draw everyone's attention. The group's reactions varied, ranging from disgust to outright horror. Some covered their noses, while others stepped back to create distance. Mortified, Anna stood frozen as the guests hurried inside, their excitement replaced by murmurs of disgust. Just when she thought things couldn't get worse, Keanu Reeves stepped out to greet his guests. Dressed impeccably in a formal suit, his composure remained intact even as he took in the scene. Calmly, he reassured the guests, "Please go on inside. My staff will handle this situation. I apologize for any inconvenience." Before Anna could move, Gordon appeared, his face red with fury. "What on earth have you done?" he bellowed, gripping her arm and dragging her away. His voice boomed as he berated her, ensuring everyone in the service area could hear. "I gave you one simple task: get lunch and return. And you managed to mess it up spectacularly," he ranted. "Do you even realize what you've done? You've embarrassed us in front of important guests." He shoved her toward the shower room. "Clean yourself up," he snapped, his tones seething. "And pray Mr. Reeves doesn't fire us all because of your incompetence." Trembling, Anna stepped into the shower room, her tears finally spilling over. The hot water did little to comfort her as she scrubbed away the filth and shame. Emerging in a replacement uniform, she discovered with dismay that it was a poor fit, restricting her movements. Gordon's disgusted glare met her as she stepped out. "One more mistake like this, and you're out. No second chances," he growled before storming off. As Anna moved to her next task, arranging canapes in the foyer, she felt the weight of the day pressing on her. She tried to focus, but doubts about her ability to succeed in this job lingered in her mind. Her concentration was broken by the sound of footsteps. Looking up, she saw Keanu approaching. His voice was gentle. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "I wanted to check on you after what happened." The walk back to the villa quickly felt like a march of shame. As Anna neared the service entrance, she caught sight of Keanu stepping out of his car. Their eyes met, and in his gaze, she saw a mix of concern and disappointment. "Anna," he called, his voice firm yet gentle. "I was worried when you disappeared. Gordon told me what happened. I must admit, I'm disappointed. I thought we had a good talk earlier about the significance of today's events." Tears began to form in Anna's eyes as she replied, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Reeves. My mother. I had to. I know I should have said something, but—" Her words faltered, unable to finish. Keanu's expression softened a little, but before he could respond, Gordon appeared, his face flushed with anger. "Mr. Reeves, I apologize," Gordon began. "I'll address this issue with my staff. I assure you it won't happen again." He bowed and excused himself, and Anna followed, bowing even deeper. Gordon pulled Anna into the back service area, shutting the door firmly behind them. "Let me be clear," he said coldly. "You're no longer welcome in my agency. You've shown you're unreliable and unsuited for this type of work." Though Gordon's harsh words stung, Anna stood her ground. "I just came to collect my belongings," she said quietly, her voice steady. "My uniform and shoes from earlier. They're by the security post," Gordon scoffed. "We had to leave them outside because of the smell. Take them and leave." Anna moved to retrieve her items, keenly aware of Keanu's eyes on her. She longed to explain her homelessness, her mother's illness, and the impossible choices she'd had to make. But the words refused to come. Instead, she clutched her soiled clothes tightly against her chest, as though shielding herself from further humiliation. "I'm sorry for letting you down, Mr. Reeves," she murmured, her gaze fixed on the ground. "Gordon was right, I'm not fit for this kind of work. Thank you for the opportunity." With that, Anna turned and walked away from the villa, leaving behind the job that had briefly sparked hope in her. As she departed, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had lost more than a position. She had lost a chance at a better life. The harsh afternoon sunlight seemed to mock her as she returned to her car, still parked in the alley behind the Golden Fork. What had once felt like a sanctuary, a makeshift home, now seemed more like a prison. As she slid into the driver's seat, the weight of the day overwhelmed her, and tears began to fall. "How could I have been so foolish?" she berated herself, her voice thick with sobs. "I had a real chance, and I ruined it. How am I going to help Mom now?" As her tears subsided, leaving her hollow and drained, Anna became acutely aware of her hunger. She hadn't eaten since her meager breakfast that morning. Reluctantly, she realized she had no choice but to revisit the Golden Forks alley. Grabbing her well-worn melamine plate from the passenger seat, a salvaged symbol of her struggles, Anna stepped out of her car and walked toward the bins. Suddenly, a sleek car pulled up nearby. Frozen, Anna's heart raced as Keanu Reeves stepped out, his eyes widening as he took in the sight of her. Gone was the uniformed maid he had encountered earlier. In her place stood a woman, disheveled and defeated, clutching a chipped plate in search of her next meal. Anna. Keanu's voice was soft, tinged with concern. What are you doing here? The innocence of his question broke something within her. She gestured weakly toward her car. I live here, she whispered. Keanu's eyes followed her gesture, taking in the makeshift curtains and belongings visible through the windows of her old sedan. Realization dawned on his face as he understood the full extent of Anna's struggles. Unable to bear his gaze, Anna's composure crumbled, and tears began to flow. I'm so sorry, she sobbed, the truth spilling out. I didn't mean to lie, I just needed the job so badly. My mother, she's sick. Leukemia. And now there's this emergency surgery. I didn't know what else to do. I've ruined everything. Now I have nothing left. Keanu's expression shifted from shock to profound compassion. Taking a step toward her, he hesitated briefly before speaking. Anna, he said gently, I had no idea. Why didn't you tell me? Anna shook her head, shame clouding her voice. How could I? I didn't want anyone to know how far I'd fallen. And when everything went wrong today, I panicked. After a moment of silence, Keanu's tone became resolute. Come with me, he said, gesturing toward his car. We need to talk, and this isn't the place.